We are a small group of WSA graduates in the Patapsco Tidal Basin working together to improve water quality through sustainable landscape projects and community outreach. Our mission is to continuously engage new relationships and teach others to replicate our efforts.
State of the Patapsco Tidal, an historic river where our 9 stewards live amongst its many tributaries. Notice the yellow hydrant in the background behind the car? A muddy bog surrounded it and prevented safe access. While social distancing, 5 stewards rerouted flow, which dried the ground at the hydrant and provided a native garden with an ephemeral stream.
Seeing the volumes of trash mound through this pandemic has been disheartening to say the least. People just don't understand the impact of our compounding actions as a community. They think, oh, just one straw or just one cup. But when you multiply that by the population, it's overwhelming. Our aim as stewards is to turn those negative compounding actions into positive ones through education and action. We would like to reschedule our 2020 Project Clean Stream event at Fort Armstead Park for this spring. The site is massive and located only feet from the Patapsco River, where the trash is horrendous and there is plenty of room for social distancing.
We should inspire our communities while supporting efforts to address climate change, with stewards, government, and neighbors working together to find financial and social benefits which propel action. Remember, there is unity in community, and our biggest impacts are seen when working together. We compound positive efforts.
The Magathie River Association is dedicated to the preservation and improvement of the water quality, plants, and wildlife of the Magathie River and its watershed. MRA volunteers measure water quality at about 25 sites every 2 weeks from mid-April to mid-October. We have 5 teams of volunteers who sample from piers or boats. 2 of the most important characteristics that we measure are the amount of dissolved oxygen, DO, just above the bottom sediments, and water clarity. This map shows the locations of our stations and the percent of time that we measured good DO and water clarity levels. Our open water stations usually show very good water quality, but this year we experienced numerous algal blooms, resulting in dark-colored water and reduced DO levels at some open water stations. Shore stations showed a variety of water quality on both north and south shores. Generally, we saw poorer water quality at these sites in 2020. Good or safe swimming conditions are indicated by the dotted line in the figure on this slide. We saw very good swimming conditions at all of our sites sampled from piers in 2020. The high counts labeled Cattail Creek are not swimming sites, but very shallow water at the Berrywood restoration site. This year, we'd like to highlight Marsh Landing Victory, which prevented development adjacent to Cattail Creek restoration site, saving hundreds of trees. Beechwood Park Restoration. This is an ongoing restoration, and volunteers and a private contractor work together to prevent erosion. This year we also produced a game, the MRA Trivia Game. The Trivia Game is a unique way to learn about the history and ecology of the Magathie. MRA's goals this year, we want to continue researching Magathie watershed history and producing videos to post on our website. We are currently working on Mount Misery history. We also want to increase MRA's participation in Maryland Grow's oyster program. The Magathie River Association offers many opportunities for volunteering on our projects. In February and March, there's the Yellow Perch Egg Hunt. April through October, ongoing water quality monitoring and aquatic grass hunt. All year long, construction site monitoring for sediment containment. There's also Grow Oysters at your waterfront. Living history stories are always welcome, as are new ideas for projects.
Hi, I'm Tom Gay. I'm the Executive Director of the Severn River Association. We are the oldest river group in America. We were founded in 1911, and we are still working to create a healthy and thriving Severn River. The Severn River is 14 miles long. It's on the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay, and like most of the Chesapeake Bay, we are challenged by stormwater runoff. We are overwhelmed by nutrient pollution. To be able to track what this is doing to our river, we have created a rather robust water quality monitoring program. We visit 44 stations every week throughout the entire watershed. We're in the main stem and we go deep inside the creeks. Some of the creeks have 3 monitoring stations. We've been tracking a dead zone. It's rather persistent and it seems to be growing. Contrary to what's happening in the bay itself, the dead zones on the Anne Arundel rivers are expanding. And you can see this on the map here. They're outlined in red. These are the areas where we've been tracking dead zones. The other story was an extensive algae bloom that struck sort of late April and lasted through early June. This was a real problem because this was a particularly active mahogany tide, and it blanketed the river in an angry-looking orange-red. And that tide blocked the sunlight that our underwater grasses need to survive. It's curious in that we have the dead zone, we have these algae blooms, and yet most of the river has been okay for swimming, but for our fish, our crabs, and our oysters, these dead zones are particularly dire. A big success that we've had in the Severn River in last year is that we were able to plant 16.9 million new oysters in our Severn River. We did this with our partners through Operation Build a Reef, and it's part of our ongoing program over the last 11 years to grow oysters with Maryland Grow Oysters program, which features 400 volunteer oyster growers. A significant concern that we have is stormwater runoff, especially from impervious surfaces, which collect all of that nitrogen and then send it into our river. This is a huge dilemma. The main problem, according to most experts, is lawn fertilizers. That's a big problem coming in the spring, because in the spring, most of that stuff just washes off into the river, and this is the result. One of our goals for 2021 is to expand our brand new floating classroom. This gives students an opportunity to go out on the river, use professional equipment, and study water quality, take readings, and learn to appreciate how water quality affects oyster reefs and other organisms in the river. We would also like to encourage more communities to build living shorelines, as you can see here in the photograph, and we have 2 gentlemen planting marsh grasses up there in West Severna Park. This is a grand idea, a really great way to protect your watershed and to enhance your property values. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
The Severn Riverkeeper Program, an affiliate of the Waterkeeper Alliance, enables clean water projects on behalf of Severn watershed communities, the Chesapeake Bay Program, and the regional and national goals of the Waterkeeper Alliance. The muddy color represented in these 2 photos is sedimented stormwater runoff laden with pollutants. The photos illustrate the scale of our work. Stormwater pipe drainage systems dumping stormwater at high velocity in the nearest stream also erode stream banks and are the primary waterway polluters in urban suburban settings. For the last 2 decades, Severn Riverkeeper scientist Pierre Hencart monitored and analyzed water quality measurements in the Severn, informing us of the damage done. We began the search for an effective solution. Using prototype ecologically focused regenerative methodologies at stormwater pipe outfalls and in shoreline restoration, we found dramatic results in water quality improvement and habitat uplift for aquatic species and wildlife. With storms becoming increasingly more fierce and frequent, we find it imperative to speed up the pace of ecological restoration. To do so, we are working simultaneously in multiple Severn watershed communities with grantors and government who are equally eager to step up the pace of restoration. This success story allows us to check off another stormwater pipe pollutant source. We created a clean stream feeding the Severn through the Chase Creek tributary using regenerative stormwater conveyance. The steep eroded ravine was stabilized and stormwater pollutants removed, along with exotic invasive bamboo, which was replaced with beneficial native flora. Our partners shown in the photo are celebrating with us as the final objective, educational signage, concludes the project. This is another success story, but it did not begin that way. The landowner was stuck in permitting and could not proceed, losing property after every storm. See the collapsing bluff in the photo. Enter Severn Riverkeeper program. The permit was enabled, as well as the clean water goals of Severn Riverkeeper, Anne Arundel County, MDE, and DNR. The next photo shows part of over 900 linear feet of completed dynamic living shoreline. Aquatic species are already showing rebound. The goal this year is to complete multiple ecological restorations, pushing us ever closer to achieving the long-range goal of returning the Severn to a clean tributary. These photos show one of our award-winning projects which treats stormwater pollution from Annapolis Mall. We hope you are inspired to become an advocate of the Severn Riverkeeper program.
Hi, this is Donna Jefferson from Spa Creek Conservancy. We're an all-volunteer organization dedicated to the stewardship of Spa Creek Watershed through education, preservation, mitigation, and restoration. The 2020 Water Quality Report for Spa Creek is still being compiled, but here are a few of the significant negatives and positives. Enterococcus, or fecal bacteria, the good news is that the 2020 average at South Cherry Grove Pedestrian Bridge actually decreased 75% from 2019. Since no one swims in the headwaters, the levels here are of less concern than in the creek itself, but this water flows directly into the creek, so we're headed in the right direction. The bad news? The 2020 levels in Hawkins Cove doubled from 2019. Since we can't pinpoint the reasons for this, we'll begin a storm event study in Hawkins Cove this spring. Dissolved oxygen, or the oxygen present in the water that's needed to support a diverse aquatic population, has decreased from 2018 to 2019 to again in 2020. This is of great concern. And water quality. The bad news is the water quality measurements also decreased from 2019 to 2020. Success. Hiking up through the headwaters of Spa Creek, we have discovered that beavers have returned to the headwaters and are adding structures and dams to what we originally paid engineers to install. The original restoration of Hawkins Cove, the ravine continues to show a reduction in suspended solids flowing into Spa Creek. Not looking so good? Spa Creek is an ultra-urban watershed in our beautiful capital city with more than 57% impervious cover, so the pressure for more residential development is a constant concern. Every sliver of empty land is a target for redevelopment, as well as a source of increased polluted runoff into the creek and less public access. We want to ensure that the residents of Annapolis, especially those living near the creek but without means to play in the creek, create a connection and relationship to the water. We hope for Spa Creek to be a playground for all, and we want all to feel ownership and responsibility for its health. Goals on Spot Creek include starting a targeted storm event study to determine what exactly is flowing into Spot Creek during a storm, focusing on Hawkins Cove. We're going to restart our fish seining identification and counting to add to the past 5 years' worth of data. And we want to resume Kids on the Creek, an event to get more kids on the creek and teach them why it's important to have fishable and swimmable water, as well as what they can do to make that happen.
I'm Fred Tutman, and I've been the founding waterkeeper on the Patuxent River since 2004. Waterkeepers are a global movement of over 350 affiliated organizations working to save local water. Our office is located in an old country store about 3 miles south of Jug Bay in Prince George's County. It's a stunning place to visit. That said, we do work generally in all 7 Patuxent counties. The Patuxent River consistently gets a D- in water quality from the state of Maryland. That's ironic because if not for the Patuxent, there would be no Maryland Chesapeake Bay program at all. Commercial watermen in the south of the river started filing lawsuits in the 1960s and 1970s against the state of Maryland to take action to regulate housing development and wastewater treatment plants in the north of the river. Today, Patuxent Riverkeeper has occasionally produced report cards, and we've recently launched a handheld application where people can report water quality issues and review over 30 years of online Patuxent water quality data. In 2020, Patuxent Riverkeeper was instrumental in bringing about the announced closure of the coal-burning units at Chalk Point Power Generating Plant, one of the leading polluters in the Patuxent. We also helped the town of Eagle Harbor become a Maryland sustainable community and helped the town raise $1 million in stream restoration funds to deal with flooding in the town. We also had several wins in Brandywine, Maryland, an environmental justice community in southern Maryland, and also in Lothian in Anne Arundel County, where residents suffer from too many industrial burdens. We constantly and consistently work to resolve citizen water quality complaints all over the watershed. This year, due to the COVID pandemic, we're really uncertain if we'll end up opening the visitor center to the public for kayak trips and rentals in the warm weather seasons. But we do intend to take much of our community-based outreach online through webinars and other web-based offerings. We're going to hone and improve our new online water reporting and monitoring efforts, and we'll mentor as much community-based activism as we can. We believe it's really important not only to have a waterkeeper organization on the Patuxent, but also one that helps perpetuate citizen activism and the willpower to reject a D- water quality as an acceptable water score. We need to do what is required and proportional to change the fate of a river that has struggled with many of the same problems for over 50 years without much in the way of improvement. You can get involved with Patuxent Riverkeeper in non-pandemic times as a volunteer, participating in various educational offerings and field trips. You can volunteer to help out with office work, project work, and water monitoring and river cleanups. We're an ethnically and socially diverse organization with an equally diverse board of directors, one that seeks to create the widest possible community of people specifically focused on the Patuxent River and its future. Local action is the most durable and reliable work that will likely improve water quality on the state's longest and deepest intrastate river.
Hello, Watershed Stewards Academy. This is Jesse Iliff from the Arundel Rivers Federation. The Federation is dedicated to protecting, preserving, restoring, and enhancing the waters of the South River, Road River, West River, and Herring Bay in southern Anne Arundel County. We are a member of the Waterkeeper Alliance and Waterkeepers Chesapeake. We envision clean, fishable, swimmable waterways for all our local communities. We have a water quality monitoring program that in 2020 got off to a late start because of the pandemic, but despite the late start, we managed to visit our 43 stations and take 853 water quality profiles throughout the summer. One of the challenges we face in our watersheds is polluted stormwater runoff. We see it from construction sites, we see it from industrial facilities, we see it from commercial sites, and of course, a great deal of it comes off of our own backyards because of fertilizer and pesticide use and even just dog waste. Unsuccessful action from 2020 was overriding a veto from Governor Hogan of a 2019 bill that gave Arundel Rivers Federation a seat at the table on the state's Oyster Advisory Commission. The Oyster Advisory Commission advises the Department of Natural Resources on oyster management policy and we're glad to have a voice in that discussion. In 2021, we have a number of goals we hope to accomplish. Currently, we are working in the legislature to improve environmental enforcement, improve data management for our environmental agencies, improve stormwater management standards, and prevent plastic pollution. We also want to develop a river-friendly yards program for landowners that want to change from outdated turf grass to bay-friendly native plant landscaping. Hope to see you out on the river.